Green-Red Devotion, and they are in Game 3.
And it looks like Andrew Boswell is playing the same, or very close to the same 75 that we saw Reed Duke play. Not surprising, Boswell and Duke, good friends, both from Sugarloaf, New York.
He's going to play a Courser there. So Brad had a turn 2 Sylvan Caryatid. Boswell has ramped up a bit here with an Elvish Mystic into Voyaging Satyr into Courser of Kruphix. Have the option of 6 mana available to him next turn if he has an untapped land. At the very least, he'll have 5. Brad's turn 3 play is 2 more Sylvan Caryatids.
Yeah, with Boswell not having a lot going on this board, Brad can afford to just try to step his mana and allow him to be as efficient as possible on the turns down the line.
Like I said, Caryatid plus Courser plus 2 other colors, or maybe just 1 other color, to me is the most obviously powerful strategy going into this format.
It's the most obvious week 1 deck besides or alongside various Rabble strategies.
Yeah. I'm not surprised to see people trying this one because I would want to try 3 color decks. Those to me, that's the most exciting thing about cons. And I think green is the color that can do it most easily.
Yeah.
We haven't seen Teamer yet. We have seen Sultai and Abzan. Pelucranos was the play for Boswell.
The thing is, once I'm at this point where I'm playing things like all this mana, my payout being Savage Knucklebeast is not as attractive to me as doing something a little more unfair.
Yeah, Savage Knuckleblade is good, but he is another just efficient card.
Yeah.
Satyr Wayfinder is the play for Brad Nelson. He does have the option between Polluted Delta and the Opulent Palace, which is the Sultai tri-land. You see his hand just looks like it has a lot of removal there. Hero's Downfall and Murderous Cut both. He's going to take the Polluted Delta.
But that's fine for Brad. You know, again, his deck's probably more powerful in the long run. So as long as he's keeping Boswell from doing anything too impressive, he can hope to outpace him, draw step to draw step. Now, Boswell has some absolute haymakers in this deck. The Planeswalkers, Genesis Hydra, and so forth. But a lot of his draws are just lands or fairly innocuous creatures.
So that's actually where I'm not certain. You said that Brad's deck's more powerful in the long run. And I think if the deck is built properly, that's correct. I don't know. I'm not convinced. I'm not saying the deck's built wrong. I'm actually not convinced that going late here that he actually has the stronger strategy.
I think that the top of Boswell's draws are better than the top of Brad's draws, but Brad's, middle of the pack draws are much better than what Boswell brings to the table.
And we have another Caryatid here for Boswell. So 4 Caryatids now on the battlefield. A lot of mana on each side. You see 4 mana creatures on his board. 1 card. It's going to have to be a pretty big payoff. What I still like about Green Devotion is that you see right now both players are sitting on mana. Brad's sitting on a bunch of kill spells. Boswell on 1 card. Is that the kind of cards that Green Devotion ramps into, like Genesis Hydra, for example, are still pretty good against individual kill spells.
This is a spot where having lost Garrett could be a big cost for the deck, though. Even in these sort of draw-go scenarios, some of Boswell's draws are going to be very powerful, but they can be dealt with just a Hero's Downfall, or maybe they require 2 removal spells or whatever. Garrick was your 1-for-1 plan, has no business in this game anymore, and that element's gone.
Second Course of Kruphix, the draw for Boswell. He's going to go ahead and play that one. There's a Genesis Hydra waiting for him on top of the deck. He's got to be a little concerned. Brad played Farika, God of Affliction, that last turn, and right now his Black-Green Devotion is at 6. So any other permanent from Brad's deck, and he will have a 5/5 Indestructible.
Although that's not an ideal clock here, just because Boswell has so much going on the ground to gum things up. He really wants to get some sort of flying action going.
And we'll see if Brad can get that last mana symbol. Looks like he drew another Opulent Palace here, so not this turn at the very least. Does still have a lot of removal. Removal is good here, but like I said, it's not great against Genesis Hydra.
Depending on what Boswell finds, absolutely.
I'd be a little concerned with that Voyaging Satyr and the Nykthos. Boswell has access to a lot of mana here. Brad's just going to pass the turn. Genesis Hydra drawn. Elvish Mystic on top, but right now Nykthos is tapping for 7. So with Nykthos and Voyaging Satyr, that is at least 12 mana.
So what are the big things for Boswell to find here? Nylea seems very powerful, and I guess any of the Planeswalkers.
And Nylea's good. Sarkhan. Nylea and Sarkhan are pretty big payoffs for him. You're right, there's not that. There's no Garruk to find, right? There's not the big one there. He could have boarded in Hornet Queen. That would also be a really good one for him to find.
And I would suspect that Hornet Queen's coming in this matchup.
15. This is 16 mana. So it looks like it's going to be Genesis Hydra. We'll see how he spends it. I believe it is for 14.
I would be inclined to bring in Hornet Queen against a slow deck that was packing Necropolis Fiend. That seems like...
It is Genesis Hydra for 14 here. So Boswell will almost get his pick of the deck. You see there are 2 Sarkhans, an Arbor Colossus, a Xenagos, a Pelucranos that he'll get to pick out of. So both walkers, he found most of his options. Both walkers, Arbor Colossus. He looks like he revealed one too many cards. Judge will probably just issue a warning and have him shuffle there.
Sure, yeah.
The deck didn't have known information on it, so that's fine. Not to mention that you shuffle your deck afterward. So you actually do reveal that one card before you shuffle again. Thanks to Course of Kruphix. He's going to pick Sarkhan as his card to get here. And that seems pretty good. The Indestructible ability seems pretty relevant. Now, Brad can Hero's Downfall. It's in response to the activation, and he'll be fine.
Yeah. He still needs to find an answer for the Genesis Hydra, but he's flushed with, Pharika tokens, so for the time being, Brad's got this kind of stable.
Yeah, Brad has the Downfall for the Sarkhan, and you're absolutely right. I don't think there's a big problem with a Ground Pounder. It's really that Nylea that if once Boswell finds it, that'll be really difficult for Brad.
That's the big problem.
Yeah. Arbor Colossus is the next card on Andrew's deck, so another huge Ground Pounder. This one a little more problematic because it could eat a Necropolis Fiend if Brad draws one. Brad draws a card and will just pass back. So your Game 3, Brad Nelson, Andrew Boswell. This is round 2 here of the Standard Open. It's a 10-round event today. And the first Standard Open to use Khans of Tarkir. Arbor Colossus is the play for Andrew Boswell.
But still really nowhere to go in the face of this Pharika.
Yeah, no, Andrew can just buy time, right? There's no reason that he doesn't have to rush anything here.
No, both players can kind of just sit here. And Andrew can do a lot of work with this Pelucranos, so it's going to force some sort of action here out of Brad.
It's just so many monsters. He has Pelucranos as his draw, another Arbor Colossus waiting on top. It's interesting. This is a situation that I felt that last season's green deck never would have gotten in. Where I resolved a huge Genesis Hydra, I'm going off with Voyaging Satyr Nykthos, and I still can't break through. So that's where Andrew is right now, but that's very unusual for the deck. And is it just the loss of Garruk that gets us to this point? That, he can't just go infinite?
It's definitely, trying to attrition away removal spells or, beat things along those lines. Just trying to overpower your opponent completely. That's what Garruk did, and it's no longer an element of this deck.
Brad's going to cast Satyr Wayfinder. He just mills himself for 4. That's probably fine. Now, Brad's been wisely not making snake tokens here because I don't think he wants Pelucranos to fight all of them at once. The Pelucranos could do that.
Yeah. No, his graveyard is a big-time resource at this point because Andrew has so many enormous creatures. So he can't afford to lose more snakes than is absolutely necessary.
Another Arbor Colossus drawn for Andrew. Then he finds Temple of Abandon. going to go ahead and scry another temple to the bottom. We'll see the next card. It's just a life gain land, the Rugged Highlands.
I think that might be a Wooded Foothills.
That's the Wooded Foothills. You're absolutely right.
Art is fairly similar.
There's too many words for it to be to come into play tap land.
You can tell because of the hologram at the bottom.
Right, only the rares have the hologram on them, right?
The paycheck stamp.
All right. It'll just pass back. Wooded Foothills actually... How nice is this? When you have 2 courses in play, the fetch lands actually gain you life.
Yeah, there's...
That's lovely. All right. Commune with the Gods cast by Brad. It's going to find to him a Sidisi Brood Tyrant. Andrew's deck actually does not have very much removal, and it doesn't have any removal in his hand. We'll see how much value Brad can get out of this Sidisi.
Yeah, Andrew has a Setessan Tactics in the sideboard, but I would be stunned if that came in.
He plays it and he mills 2 Necropolis Fiends, so that's going to be 7 power for 4 there. Second zombie token incoming, I believe. And just a massive fight. A massive number of creatures on both sides. Though the trump card, as we said before, it is that Nylea that's in Andrew's deck. He has it as a 2 of.
It breaks this whole thing completely open.
And we see the Wooded Foothills was drawn and played by Andrew. You saw Sarkhan on top of his deck, decides that's a fine draw. He's not going to shuffle that one away.
The thing that Andrew really needs here, he needs flyers. So not surprising that Sarkhan's the card he wants.
And end step, Brad will eat one of the Necropolis Fiends to make a Death Touch Snake. And it looks like Brad's going to get aggressive with the 2 snakes. They will swing in. Will they have company? I don't think so. That deals 2 to Andrew. It doesn't, I mean, it races with Andrew's land drops. His lands all gain 2 right now.
Well, if you're not going to be blocking, you might as well be attacking.
All right. Andrew draws Sarkhan, plays basic Mountain off the top. Elvish Mystic is what's waiting. Mystic not 2-pling, but here comes the Dragon Master. Second copy for Andrew. He'll plus it and swing for 4 at Brad. This time Brad doesn't have the Hero's Downfall for it.
I think his hand may be Murderous Cut, which does not offer him any defense here.
No, Sarkhan is indestructible on his activation. Looks like Brad's just going to go to his graveyard to make some snake tokens. Now, if he empties his graveyard and makes too many snake tokens, it's possible we'll see Andrew just fight all of them with the Pelucranos.
And then we'll see if Brad has something like Murderous Cut at the ready to play over the top.
The danger would be what? That Andrew could possibly Monstrous Pelucranos for 7 twice if he has 30 mana, which I think he might.
Are you allowed to Monstrous in response to a Monstrous? You are,
yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Then yeah, he's got plenty to play with.
It's one of the lesser known tricks of monstrosity is that you can, as long as your creature is not already monstrous, you may activate monstrous. So because the first trigger hasn't resolved,
gotcha.
He's not monstrous yet. It means that when the second trigger tries to resolve, if he's already monstrous, it just doesn't do anything. And we see a swing with all these snake tokens. Pelucranos is going to step up to the plate here. Pelucranos Snake Eater. It's going to go for the blocks. So we're counting mana right here. Nykthos looks like it's tapping. If we can, for those of you playing along, Nykthos is tapping for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 mana. So that's one activation of Pelucranos to fight all the stuff. So untap, that'll be, use it again. Now he goes up to 30 mana. 31.
Yeah, now it's really important to know exactly how much Andrew is doing this for, because if he dumps everything into the Pelucranos, just trying to make it as large as possible, then one removal spell is great for Brad. But if Andrew's a little bit more conservative, you can make the play that you were alluding to.
Yeah, so actually, the play I was saying here was you'd want a monstrosity it for 7, and then leave up 15 mana. And then if, because that's reasonable. And then if Brad kills it, you can monstrosity it for 7 again in response and still kill all the snakes. I think Andrew's going to try to sweep Brad's board with it, and if he is going to do that, he's going to get blown out here. So he's going to monstrosity it for, would be for 10. 14 is what he has the mana for, I believe. And Brad says, hold on. In response,
Yep.
I'm going to get your guy. And this is a great turn for Brad Nelson. Murderous cut. Yeah, it was activated for X equals 12. Now Andrew's going to fetch in response here. He's going to get a mini activation off. So the stack is looks like there's 5 mana floating. You see that 5 next to the Nykthos.
Mm-hmm.
So you made 30, used 25 of it to monstrosity Pelucranos for 12. He now has 5 mana left. Looks like if he taps, he can make 7. So he can monstrosity it for 3 here, which still is enough to kill Sidisi if he wants to, or 3 snakes.
It feels like the snakes are the more problematic card at this point.
I am inclined to agree here. The snakes seem, they deal with all his threats. He's monstrosing it now for 3 in response to the murderous cut. We'll see who decides to kill. And that was an interesting way. So Boswell, very aware of the double monstrosity activation. You could play it for X equals 7 and 7 to make sure you hit 7 things. Boswell goes a little bit greedier. He didn't do the 15 and 14 and 0, but he did 10 and 3.
Right. And he might be in a position where, his logic is, I win the game if Brad has nothing, and even if he does have something, it's still totally fine.
Yeah, he wants his first activation to be big enough to win, and then he'll take his consolation prize. He does get 4 snakes off the board. That's not half bad. And after the shuffle, was able to draw Xenagos. Next card is Elvish Mystic. That one not as good. But he doesn't need too much, right? He has Sarkhan hitting in the air, uncontested. It seems like he just needs a source of chump blockers, and Xenagos will do a really good job of that.
Correct. Though Brad can easily swing this game around if he's able to find one of his Necropolis Fiends.
Sure, Necropolis Fiend is one of the ways to get around Sarkhan, the Dragon Master.
That's the big issue here. Is he just needs something to lock up the air here. A Hero's Downfall would also suffice.
Yeah, of note, the Pharika on Brad's side of the board is now activated. Brad did not swing it because there's still a 14/14 Genesis Hydra hiding out. Sarkhan will plus and attack. Brad goes down to 10. And we'll probably see a post-combat Xenagos here. We indeed do. And he passes the turn. Makes a Satyr token.
These games might be a little bit sloggier than we were used to in the previous format.
Yeah, well, it's always fun to see these week 1 decks because you don't know what the meta is going to be like. So maybe there is a card that breaks through this board, but if you didn't anticipate this happening, you don't have the card yet.
Right.
So, these decks are powerful but not tuned weapons, and sometimes if your weapon's not well tuned, you can find it in a situation that you weren't ready to cut through.
In a world where there's no Sphinx's Revelation, to some extent, you can kind of just do whatever you want.
This is what happens when there's no Revelation and no sweepers. Both players just get 12 permanents out.
There's some sweepers. There's some sweepers. Drown Sorrow, Anger of the Gods, and Hostilities. These are sweepers.
There's some sweepers. There's no Supreme Verdict. All right, Brad's going to go on the attack here. He has to make a move relatively quickly. He's leaving back enough green mana symbols to keep his Pharika online no matter what happens here.
I also like this line of play a lot from Brad because he's playing in such a way where, if he is able to find an answer to this Sarkhan, he does flip the script and start pressuring lethal very quickly. And that's the thing. He doesn't have to just beat this Sarkhan. He has to be able to beat, whatever Andrew is able to draw in the subsequent turns if Brad's not applying enough pressure.
Right, we see a bunch of blocks here. Remember, Andrew has a gigantic Genesis Hydra and 2 Arbor Colossus, which he can block with. So he's going to put 12 power on the Sidisi, put the Genesis Hydra on the Farika, put a Satyr in front of a Death Touch Snake. I like that he put 2 Arbor Colossus on the Sidisi just in case Brad had a kill spell. A heads-up move. So Sidisi will fall. That attack was not at Andrew, it was at Sarkhan, as you mentioned, but only got through to put Sarkhan down to 4. He's going to Bioblight N Arbor Colossus here. And in response, Andrew's going to Monstrosity the one that gets Bioblighted.
Yeah. Brad making an effort to see if Boswell was paying attention, essentially. Not like that Bioblade's doing much else at this stage.
It would be killing Satyr tokens, I suppose, would be its other ability. Maybe buying him a turn off Sarkhan. If he drew a second Bioblade, it would be a kill spell for Sarkhan.
Yeah.
He does play a second Bioblade. It's possible. He only plays 2. Go back to Andrew's turn here. Sarkhan takes to the skies once again. Brad goes from 10 down to 6.
Very impressive debut for this Planeswalker. We saw Reed Duke in round 1, and now Boswell in round 2 do some pretty incredible work with it.
Its indestructible ability is certainly making it do things here that Stormbreath Dragon wouldn't. I make that comparison because I really do feel that the 2 cards are fighting for the same spot in Standard.
Yeah.
And another Tri-land, another Opulent Palace for Brad. Passes back the turn. Looks like Boswell will close out here. Just 2 turns away. He's going to play a 3rd Courser before he plays the land. Goes up to 30. Elvish Mystic to the bottom. Another Temple coming up. But pressure is on Brad. Sarkhan swings and puts him to 2. This deck does not have, outside of Hero's Downfall, a good way to answer this card.
Yeah.
It has an Acropolis Fiend. I suppose he's the other one. Brad's milled 3 of them, however.
So
And
now
that's all they play.
it's basically this or bust. Looks like he drew.
I want to say Thoughtseize. He has Thoughtseize.
Did he just pick up Soul of
Soul.
Innistrad?
Yeah. Does not look like he has a way to get out of it. And there you go. Andrew Boswell in 3 defeats Brad Nelson.